In a few moments, we're going to look at our Bibles in the book of Colossians. We've been there a while. It's way in the back. So you'll find Acts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and then some books that start with T. That means you went too far. Colossians 3:14, which we'll get to in a moment. And as you were walking in today, you did see some signs that alerted you to the fact that my talk today is, well, kind of PG-13 maybe. So younger kids, this might not be suitable for. If you're online, if you're in one of our auditoriums, that's your last warning. Don't email me. You've been warned. Okay. Now, who can tell me the first miracle that the Bible says Jesus did? What did he do? Right, exactly. He turned water into wine. Jesus and his disciples and his mother Mary were invited to a wedding. Sometime into the reception, the host ran out of wine, and all they had left was water, and that's not a party right there. So Mary is standing there, and she's, of course, the mother of Jesus in his physical nature, and she gives Jesus the look, and she says to the host, well, my son can fix that. And he goes, Jesus, show them what you can do. And Jesus gives her the look, Mom, seriously, now? And Mary doesn't even answer Jesus. She tells the servants, you boys, you just do whatever Jesus says. And Jesus says, okay. Jesus says, fill your vessels with water. These vessels, it says there are 6 of them, each one ranging from 20 to 30 gallons. We have a very large capacity here, so this is going to be a lot of whatever he produces. So they fill the vessels with water, and a minute later, what is that water? It is wine. Jesus turns the water into wine, and it's very good wine. It doesn't have a bottle cap. It's very expensive. It's very fine wine. It's way better than the wine they've been serving throughout the party. Even later on, they say, you've saved the best wine for last. Okay, by going to that wedding, Jesus honored every wedding. He stood with the institution of marriage. He stood with everyone, everywhere, ever, who has ever made vows of commitment and love. Jesus put his permanent stamp of approval on this beautiful, all-important institution called marriage, and along with that, the all-important institution of family. This is the best possible environment for raising children, family. All year long, we've been talking about taking giant steps. These would be giant steps to get unstuck from issues that are holding us back. Most of these come from our past. As part of this larger Giant Steps year-long series, in the summer, we're specifically taking a look at what it means to love. So this is the summer of love, Jesus style. You can get your kind of hippie-colored outfits and tie-dye out if you want to. You're welcome to do that. Because we've already talked about the fact that relationships, which can be awesome, can also be really, really hard. And what makes them really, really hard is the kind of the dark side that we have, that the Bible has language for that. The Bible calls that your flesh. Taught about that last time. And we are learning to build relationships that are close and affectionate and attached and bonded and loving. And to do that by rising above the instincts of the flesh. Now, the Bible tells us that in marriage, love is like a fire. And like a fire, love grows stronger when you give it fuel. So this is not the verse I had you turn to, but this is from the Bible's kind of love book called the Song of Solomon. Many waters cannot quench love, nor will rivers overflow it. If a man were to give all the riches of his house for love, it would be utterly despised. And among other things, what he's saying is that love cannot be bought. You can't put a price tag on having love. But by God's grace, love can be created and love can be fueled. And that's what I want to talk about today. So here's the topic: step up to bonding, affection, and love. And this is our key Bible verse, Colossians 3:14, which says, but above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfection. And next to the word perfection, I inserted the word maturity. That's what it means. when you get your act together, when you leave your childish ways behind, when you become a grown-up, maturity, then you have the kind of love where you can build a healthy and solid and beautiful bond, and it uses the word bond here. I actually did some research on this word as it occurs in the New Testament, and Plato used it. This is the Greek language originally, and other philosophers used it to refer to a bond of affection, a set of attachments that a person can have. God says that you were fearfully and wonderfully made. He wove into you all kinds of machineries and processes to enable you to experience Him, but also He wants you to feel loved. He wants you to know what it means to experience real love, giving love, receiving love, here on earth, with actual humans, in person, not necessarily through a screen. One of those little machines deep inside your soul is a part of your being that forms attachments and creates bonds. You're designed this way. You have an internal bonder. It helps you do this thing called attachment and bonding. So I want to define it, and then we're kind of just take it apart. Bonding is a God-given energy by which your soul creates spiritual, intellectual, psychological, and physiological interconnections with another person, held together by affection and enabling a genuine experience of love. God gave you a kind of glue for your relationships. And this list here, I put in spiritual, intellectual, psychological, and physiological, because a lot of times people can bond physiologically, but not psychologically, physiologically, or intellectually, but not spiritually, and there's something missing in those relationships. God gave you an internal energy or machinery or process that is there to help you go deeper into love, deeper into intimacy, or even into friendship and relationships of all sorts, not just romantic. God gave you a little engine that helps you not explode your relationships. And you've got to know how that engine works and how not to hurt it. He gave you the gift of bonding. He gave you an inner bonder. So I think we already know what this feels like, but let me give you a couple of examples of what bonding means. For example, when a baby chick or duck hatches, they do this thing that's called imprinting. So the first animal they see, and usually that's the mother, they form an attachment to her. And they follow the mother hen around or the mother duck around or goose or whatever, and they copy her. If she pecks bugs off the ground, they peck bugs off the ground. If the mother duck waddles into a pond and swims around, the baby ducklings follow, and they waddle into the pond and they swim around. There's this attachment, there's an emotional, and there's a psychological bond. And this bond is so strong, this process, that if a baby duckling doesn't see its mother, but instead sees a human, the baby duckling bonds to the human and imprints on the human, and it will follow the human around and copy it. There's just this thing in us that forms emotional bonds, and it's very, very strong. And in the same way, it happens with babies. When babies are born, they learn to feel safe and warm in a loving mother's arms, and very quickly, and I know for many this isn't fast or instant, but the mom and the dad will also bond with the baby. It's a two-way street through touch, through the sound of the voice, through caressing, even through smell. Babies bond through gentle touch and sound and presence, and even skin-to-skin responses. Babies create a bond through nursing, cuddling, hugging, all of that. All of which is to say, now we're getting somewhere, so stay with me, that God designed you to form strong emotional bonds of attachment and affection. And when you do it right, these bonds create a lot of happiness. They make you feel very safe, very stable. They make the grace that God is showering on you very real in your heart, and not just like, a theological understanding of grace, but psychologically too, emotionally too, real in your experience. And I hope and pray that my message today can give you wisdom you need for a lifetime of good choices. Now, I know that some here, you may consider yourself beyond these stages. You're older, perhaps. You think, well, I'm not in the dating game anymore, or all of that. Or maybe you're widowed or single for whatever reason, and you're like, this doesn't really apply to me. Well, you do have somebody to pray for who's younger in this situation right now. You do have somebody to mentor, guide, and answer questions for. So I hope that you can take some of this in and learn the wisdom of God. I've taught this before. I'm going to teach it again today and next week, because every generation needs to understand these mechanisms of the human heart, although this is going to be different than in the past. There are several kinds of bonds. There are parental bonds. There are friendship bonds. You bond with your friend. It doesn't become anything romantic. There are marital bonds, romantic bonds, animal bonds. You bond with an animal. Anybody here ever cry when your pet died? Come on, man. When a bond is broken, there is pain. There is sadness, right? You grieve. We actually bond with God through music, this worship that we just did, through the Bible, and through prayer. We create a bond of affection with God. And there are also symbolic bonds, right? Where you have a crush on someone you've never met. You saw them on media or YouTube or whatever. You have a crush on someone you never met. There are inanimate bonds. We're such bonding people. The Chicago Cubs, I'm from Chicago. You probably know that. When I think of Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs, I get a lump in my throat. That place is just so beautiful. It goes so deep into my history. My dad was on the Chicago Cubs farm team. I mean, I also get emotional when I think of a white 1971 Plymouth Valiant straight six. That's my first car. I mean, I lived in that car. I was under the hood of that car all the time. So when I was a little boy, my mom says I bonded with my stuffed monkey. There are inanimate bonds. That's how strongly this machinery goes inside our hearts. Some kids, our kids, have a security blanket. What happens when mom or dad makes a rookie mistake and throws that blanket in the laundry just before bedtime? Right? That's a disaster. That's a rookie move. Don't mess with bonds. These are the primary relationships for the human heart. So I want to go back to this bond that can happen between a couple, a man and a woman, a husband and wife, the kind of bond that God designed to pull you forward into marriage, and we're going to call this romantic pair bonding. Experts have studied this and said that a couple will go through 12 identifiable stages in creating a healthy, lasting emotional bond. This is where the place where things get a little juicy. Okay. The first stage is, and this is not my language, but it's used to describe romantic pair bonding, is eye to body. That's where you see the other person. You cast your gaze upon her or him, and you are interested, and you are intrigued, and you are like, I want to find out more. And this is the beginning of the bond. I remember the moment I first saw Margie, my wife. I was in my Chicago church. I was teaching a Wednesday night Bible study. There was a room full of people. And she walked in. While I was teaching, she walked in the door on that side. She walked across the back of the room to a seat and a table on that side. And even though I'm like teaching the Bible with my mouth, my head is going, who is she? How come I've never met her before? Who brought her? I must meet this person. And I was like, I saw her. It's the first time I saw her, and I remember it. It was the beginning of our bond. Now, when I say eye to body, I am not talking about staring at a person in a way that is creepy. Don't do that. This is not undressing the person with your eyes. This is not looking over the person sensually. That's all out of bounds. This is seeing a person with appreciation and then focusing on the face and treating that other person as a human who is sacred to God. God is that person's dad. He's got a shotgun. Don't mess. Eye to body. The second stage is called eye to eye, and that's when you look into each other's eyes. This is when she notices you noticing her, or vice versa. You make eye contact, and hopefully there's a smile, and sometimes it can feel like sparks are flying, and music is playing, and all of that, eye to eye. Then comes hello, which is voice to voice. Hello, my name is Movies. Will you go to the John with me? Because you can be nervous, right? And this is where you begin talking. These three stages, especially this third stage, you should just devote a lot of time and weeks here if you want to build a solid romance. Do you like the stuff that I like? If you want to build a lasting bond, you'll spend large amounts of time just talking with each other. This is where you explore your belief systems and see if you are compatible. This is where you explore your value systems and make sure that what's important to you is important to the other person before you go on. Why? Because when a bond is broken, there is pain. So don't create this super strong bond and then realize that he's an axe murderer and you got to break it off. Find it out early before you create a big, deep bond. This is where you find out if your dreams are compatible with the other person's dreams. I mean, they want to be a surfer dude and travel Earth surfing for the best waves, and you want to settle down and build a family and have kids. This might not work. Do you really know the other person? This comes through talking. Can they hold on a job? Do they have a record of violence? Are they actually legally single? Find out. Have they been jerks to the people they've gone out with in the past? Don't move on beyond this step without knowing the other person, unless you want a lot of painful, needless drama and tears with a lot of snot bubbles. I mean, if that's what you want, then rush through all these stages, because you can do all 12 of them in like 3 hours. I mean, you should take months, but don't rush, all right? Now, as we go through the 12, I'm going to pause and give you some abiding principles of romantic pair bonding and even sexual bonding. And here's the first one, called the law of spiritual harmony. Before you go any further in a romantic relationship, you need to find out if the other person is genuinely saved and loves Jesus like you do. If not, hit the brakes. And by hit the brakes, I mean stop. And this is where I would say, and I say this respectfully and lovingly, and I'm not here to judge anybody. There's not a person hearing my voice, even all you saints, who actually have developed a halo in the classic service. We've all broken this stuff, all right? So let's all just be equal. No one judging anybody, but date Christians only. And by Christians, I don't mean that they just say they're a Christian to get you to date them, but they've got a track record. They're part of a church that preaches the gospel, preaches the Bible, preaches salvation by grace through faith, because I've seen it 1,000 times where the person who's not a Christian actually pulls the Christian out of their walk with God. Very, very rarely have I seen it go the other way. Evangelistic dating, not a plan. It can work, but not the plan. The Bible even says this in 2 Corinthians 6:14. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. That's pretty much all you need right there. This is the most powerful joining you could have on earth, is with a person in marriage, and believers and unbelievers don't work well together in this yoke. Now, I know that we have plenty of awesome people here today where one partner knows Jesus and the other partner does not. However that happened, I don't want to leave you like feeling beat up on or anything like that. I get that. I want you to know God still loves you. God still blesses you. God can still bless you and your children. He can bless your relationship. Your job is to have a decent testimony in front of your unsaved spouse and pray for that person, and don't nag them about Jesus. God will work on them. Just live faithfully with Jesus, a kind-hearted, good person, and let God work on them, okay? Just back off and give them that space. So anyway, that's the power of grace. All right, so there you go. There's the law of spiritual harmony. If you're in the dating realm, or your grandkids, or whoever you love, tell them, only date a Christian. Okay, the next stage is hand to hand. I still remember the first time I held Margie's hand. We were at my brother's house. It was 4th of July. There was a bunch of people there. We were having, like a picnic and everything. And then we were walking over to a park down the road to hang out for fireworks. And I reached out and I took her hand. And it was fun and it was natural. And it was a way of telling her, but also the community, so to speak, our friendship network, that we were forming a bond, and it was really, really nice, which leads to a second law we all need to know about romantic relationships, which is the law of diminishing returns. The first time you experience each stage, it's exciting. However, the more routine it becomes, the less exciting it feels. I mean, the first time you hold hands with your boyfriend or girlfriend, you're like, it's a big deal. You call your friends, we held hands, you know. It's so awesome. And you tell all your friends, but, 100 times later, it's not that big a deal. And it can actually get boring. And this is how this bonding machinery in you works. It's pulling you forward. It's pulling you forward. Right? And this is the law of diminishing returns. And here's the problem. Because what happens if you keep going forward and then decide, no, not for me, then what? What happens if you've run out of first times, because the first time is the most exciting time, for all of these stages before you ever get married? Save some firsts, because if you don't, you're going to have a harder time creating a bond that lasts forever. So let's go back. Making sense so far? Okay, let's go back. Last night I had some people say, I wish I heard this years ago. And I get that. I want to say, well, you should have been in our church years ago. Okay. Hand to shoulder, that's the, that thing. This is when you put your arm around her shoulder. There's some commitment here. But you're not gazing into each other's eyes yet. You're looking off into the future together. You're doing a thing. You're watching a movie. You're working on a project. You're whatever. When your arm is around the other person's shoulder, you're both facing in the same direction, looking at the same things, doing that together. There's a third thing out there, whatever that thing is that you're doing. And by the way, this kind of action is also normal in non-romantic bonding, and it's totally fine. Athletes do this in a huddle, on a team. It's about facing an opponent together, sharing a mission together, being on the same page. And then if it's romantic, you'll move on to stage 6, which is hand to waist, when it really starts to get romantic and a couple starts walking through the park together and the sun is shining and the birds are singing and all is well in the world and the scent of jasmine is in the air and all this, which leads to the law of speed. The faster you create a bond, the weaker it is. It won't last. You do this all in a day, you're rushing through steps, but you're not really bonding. The more slowly you create a bond without skipping steps, the stronger it is. But I think I should have added a caveat in there. Some of y'all are taking too long. What's the problem? What's the problem? Seriously. Okay? By the way, I love this because this can get so awkward so fast. You picked that. Such a good day to be at church. If you skip steps, your bond will be weak. If you skip steps, if you jump forward, your bond will be, let's just skip the talk. You don't even know the name, but let's just go forward and do some of the later steps of bonding. It's going to be very unsatisfying. It's going to be very confusing. You won't be sure what the other person is really thinking. Okay, pretty soon you get to the first kiss, and they call that face-to-face, which makes sense. You lean in for the kiss. You're gazing into each other's eyes. You're hugging. You're kissing. And this is where all the other laws are kicking in, okay? The first law I gave you, the law of spiritual harmony, if you've both been following Jesus, you will have already had a conversation about pleasing Him in this relationship, and this is as far as you go. I'll give you the next step, but I'll give you the next step, which is hand to head. Oh, I love your hair. So see the line? That's as far as you go until your wedding night. And you have to have a conversation to agree to this. And then don't put yourself in a situation where you can do this and not get caught, where your friends can't call you out on it. So that's the law of spiritual harmony. The law of diminishing returns actually makes it hard to stop at this point. So that's why you take a long time to get to this point. Then you start having serious conversations about getting married. Then you get engaged and have a short engagement. This 1.5 year thing so you can throw some party that goes in the newspaper? What's wrong with your head? Have a short engagement so you can hop in bed in a way that pleases God and Jesus and the Bible and doesn't make you sin. Go get married. Come on. Hey, by the way, we'll work with you on that. Because the law of diminishing returns makes it hard to stop at this point. See, the law of spiritual harmony says, press the brake pedal because you want to please God. The law of diminishing returns says, press the gas pedal. So you got them both, and there's smoke coming out. The law of speed is saying if you go too fast, you'll hurt your bond, you'll hurt the other person's heart, you'll damage your future relationship, and you'll hurt your testimony as a Christian. So look, if you're a Christian and you're dating or going to date, stop here. Nothing beyond a gentle kiss every once in a while, hand to the head every once in a while, no heavy makeout sessions, no touching each other's body. The Bible uses a word, and it says, do not defraud another person. And defraud there isn't like economic or anything. It means to arouse desire that you can't fulfill without sinning. Don't arouse those desires. You know, here's your outline. Here's your outline. If you intend maybe to someday get married. First, become good marriage material. Pay your debts. Get a job. Become a good person, handle the addictions, become good marriage material. Second, get in the dating game. Third, get married. Fourth, feel free to move on. Okay, so then the next stage would be hand to body, touching the other person sexually. And then the rest of the stages, are you guys excited for this? I mean, this is just, come on. This is not your grandmother's church sermon going on right now. So the last three are intimate, more intimate, and most intimate. I have a feeling you can figure that out. So, and here's where our culture gets messed up, all right? Our culture makes sex about physical pleasure more than about the bonding of affection and love that happens emotionally. So you go from one sex partner to the next sex partner, or you make out with one person, then make out with another person a week later, and then another person 3 weeks after that. And it can be physically fun and physically pleasurable, no doubts about it, but what's it doing to your heart? What's it doing to your bonder, your machinery of bonding? So this is the law of God's gift of sexuality. God gave the blessing of sex between a man and a woman within the commitment of marriage for three main purposes, which are recreation, pleasure, fun, have a great time, procreation, making babies, go for it. And I know physiologically it doesn't happen all the time, understood, and you know, there are other ways. And bond creation, a lifetime of deepening affection and love. And this is the third one that people forget. And all of them have to do with creation. All right, so everybody take a deep breath. De-stressify. God's plan is really clear. There are about 1,000 ways to break God's plan. And I'm not here to judge you. I don't want to make you feel bad. Let's all agree we've gone outside of God's plan, even if it's just mentally, because Jesus said that. If you look upon a woman to lust after her, you have committed adultery with her already in your heart. That was Jesus. So let's agree we've already gone outside of God's plan, but the biggest part of me being a pastor and the biggest way I show my love to you is by teaching the Bible to you and preaching the gospel. And you have to let me show you from God's word how you can avoid a lot of pain and how your kids and grandkids can avoid a lot of pain. And how, also, you can actually get the pain you have created healed. So there's healing for broken hearts. The principle of God remains. Any sex outside of marriage, even porn, will hurt your ability to bond. It will hurt your ability to form lasting attachments that are affectionate and emotional. We are seeing an epidemic of this throughout our culture. I'll be talking more about this next time. It's an epidemic of marriage rates plummeting. Dating is not happening among high school and college students, not happening. Half of, and I'm not judging you, this is the universe that my generation has given the younger generation, and it's messed up. Half of young men age 30 have never asked a woman out on a date. Okay, they've gone through high school, they've maybe gone through college, no dating. Something's broken here. And again, I'm not judging, but babies out of wedlock, then numerically exploding. Again, I'm speaking truth in love. Let's do the best we can for ourselves. Wherever we are right now, let's do the best we can for our kids, for ourselves, for our partners, and for the testimony of God in the world. Casual sex, porn, grooms a person's heart to do sexual actions separated from emotional bonding. Instead of using sex to draw close emotionally, you shield yourself emotionally even as you draw close physically. That's going to break something in your soul. You shield yourself emotionally even as you draw close physically. That's going to damage your bonder. It's just another sex partner. It's just another physical act. It's not really face-to-face. It's not really person-to-person. I've talked to people who struggle with sex addiction who will do everything in the world except kiss. It's too intimate. Think about it. You get to a point where the person doesn't matter. You don't want them to matter because you want to jump to another person pretty quick. The sex is impersonal. Sex is just a kind of exploitation. You guys, last week I said step up to self-love so that you can get to a place in your bonding and romantic relationships where you respect yourself enough to say no when another person wants to use you. Where you're not desperate to give it up because you're afraid they'll leave. You love yourself, you respect yourself, you honor yourself enough to say, no, that ain't happening. Put a ring on it, buddy. And the reason is the law of haunting, which is that every time you create a bond and rip that bond apart, you feel pain. You cause pain, and you damage your ability to bond in the future. Broken bonds from the past can haunt your future. Those memories come into your bedroom. You're splitting apart sex from love, sex from bonding, and every time you do that, you make it harder for yourself to form attachments at all. And you become very shielded and very guarded and very emotionally distant. And that's not the plan. I'm saying that when you take God's principles and violate them, you will break your bonder. You can fan the flames of sexual activity in a way that pours ice water on your emotional bonds of affection. And it's like if you got a Band-Aid and put it on your arm and ripped it off, it would hurt because it's got strong bonding ability. But put it back on, it'll stick, but take it off, it won't hurt as much. And pretty soon, on, off, that the bond is gone. The Band-Aid will just fall off. And this is what happens when you keep ripping apart relationships. Every time sexual bonds are broken, every time you change sexual partners, this is what's going to happen. And I know this is so, which is why someone far more loving and wise than me counsels you to wait till you're married and make your honeymoon the first time. Save some firsts for your honeymoon. And if you've already passed that point, my loving and respectful counsel to you is to rewind your bonding sequence and go back to number one and just look at each other and talk to each other a lot for weeks and don't do anything else. Rebond. It can happen. You can heal all this. And since we're already in the realm of, wow, this is uncomfortable and awkward, how about 1 Corinthians 6:18, run away from sexual sin. The Greek word in the Bible here is spelled, it's translated sexual sin, Porneia, porneia. Run away from that and all the sexual sins. And we have Proverbs 6:26, for a prostitute will bring you to poverty, and sleeping with another man's wife will cost you your life. Can a man scoop a flame into his lap and not have his clothes catch on fire? Can he walk on hot coals and not blister his feet? So it is with the man who sleeps with another man's wife. He who embraces her will not go unpunished. It's just the nature of the universe. So let me give you some pastoral wisdom here. First, if you are married and your relationship is cold, like I said, rebond. Rewind back to the early bonding steps. Go back to just looking, listening, talking. Have some dates where you just talk, simple holding hands, taking a walk and hold hands. It might feel awkward, but just hold hands. A simple kiss. Do the bonding steps really slowly. Do them again. Be intentional about it because, like I said at the beginning, love cannot be bought, but it can be created, and you can add fuel to that fire. Second, there is no surprise on how affairs happen. Affairs happen eye to body, eye to eye, voice to voice. What makes an affair? It starts with casual flirtation, and one thing leads to another. Oh, surprise. And people say, it just happened. We didn't mean to. Well, there's no it. There's you and there's the other person, and you did mean to. Own it. And I didn't mean to fall in love. Well, if you hadn't done the bonding steps, you wouldn't have fallen in love. But so what made that happen? Your choice. So, if you are flirting with an affair, you have to cut it off early, and by early, I mean like today, the end. No more flirting, no more conversations, no more texting, no more dinners, no more phone calls, no more meetups, no more hookups. Change the way you go to work, change the way you walk to your desk, change jobs if you have to. Be done. And by the way, until the divorce is finalized and signed by a judge, you're still married. And you're hurting the institution of marriage. And again, just teaching. Love must be tough. All right. Third, I would like to say a word in the most loving way I can to you, and I know we have this here. If you are part of a couple that's living together without the benefit of marriage, if you want to honor God, if you want to live in a place where grace is being poured out, if you want to set an example for your children, if you want to make a statement to the community that God comes first, if you want to stand as a righteous rebel against the heartbreaking culture of today, it's time to have a difficult conversation about getting married or breaking up. I say this with all love and respect, and we are here for you. Pastor Josh, we built a whole ministry of marriage and family because of what's happening in our culture. And we have one of the best in the country, and Pastor Josh out there and Pastor Stephen are ready to have a quick talk with you today to set something up about getting on that path of at least having the conversations. And we'll expedite you. Look it up. Help you go fast. My wife says, sometimes you use words, Bill. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up with this, which is, hallelujah, the law of redemption. Because of Jesus and his cross, you can start over and you can be made whole. Can I get an amen? Amen, right? Grace means there's no such thing as a point of no return. Grace means you can have your past forgiven, and not only your past forgiven, your heart made whole, your bonder repaired. Nobody's perfect, but I love what Jesus said to the woman caught in adultery, and she was probably a serial adulteress. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. And that's what he's saying to you. I'm not condemning you. I'm trying to set you free to be whole. That's the plan. And you can start over sexually. You can find more love, more joy, more happiness, more affection, more closeness. You can be pure again. Go back to Jesus. And that's my prayer for you, and that's what I want to pray for you. I'm going to pray for you right now. Is that okay? Now, we haven't talked about masturbation yet. We're going to do that next week, so I guess you'll have to come back, and we'll talk more about more. We can talk about dating and things like that, even as a married couple. So, aren't you glad you came to church? This is best Father's Day ever. Let me pray for you right now. God, I pray for every man, woman, young person, student, old, young, everybody hearing my voice today, that you'll bring us to a place where yes, we know you love us. We know you shed your blood for us, Jesus, on Calvary's cross. But that on a human level, we can actually feel loved and just close and known and seen and appreciated and respected. That we can give that to other people and raise our kids and grandkids in a healthy way. Just bring us to that place of health. And Lord, where people have to have some really difficult conversations, strengthen their courage to do it and not keep putting it off, I pray. Bless us all for the cause of the gospel of Jesus, that we walk in a way that your grace and your abundance can be poured out in our lives with nothing blocking it. I pray in Jesus' precious name. Everybody can say, amen.